Get ready to be jolted out of the ordinary and into a world where conversations are charged with intensity and facts. The Lightning Strike Talk Radio with your host, Mohammed Faheem, broadcasting live from the heart of the city on Chicago's Progressive Talk Radio, WCPT 820 AM. Welcome to a radio show that charges through the airwaves with an electricity like no other. Here's your host, Mohammed Faheem.
Good morning, folks, and welcome to another episode of The Lightning Strike. I'm your host, Mohammed Faheem. Joining me on the program today is Dr. Sheila White, Mike Patino, and Chris Hilbert. And in the first hour, our guest is going to be Andrew Herrera from Herrera Strategies. And we'll be talking about what the heck is happening in our country, especially in our state also. And then in the second hour, we have got Chicago Mayor Brandon Johnson, who would be joining us at about 9:15, okay, with Congresswoman Maaria Newman. And then we will continue the conversation with Maaria Mozaffar for her segment of Breaking the Echo Chamber. Normally, I write down my monologue, but I was thinking about it yesterday as to what I should be saying in my monologue, folks. There is so much happening. There's not one topic that would justify a written monologue on one topic. So I'm just going to go from my heart today. And if you want to join the conversation, feel free. You can text us or you can even call in. The number to text or call is 773-763 9278. And if you hear me doing a little clearing of the throat, I got a frog in my throat. We had a beautiful Saturday morning in the Chicagoland area, and today it is raining. But what I wanted to start off with was that horrific attack on the Islamic Center in San Diego. Just imagine two people, 17 and the other guy is 18 or 19, depending on which news reports you're listening to. They get radicalized, and it seems, guys, they had a list of 3 or 4 different locations that they wanted to hit, not just that one Islamic Center. They were going to go after some black churches that they had on the list. They're going to go after a Jewish synagogue also. So that's what is coming out in the news reports. So these are not your typical, when you hear the word radicalized, you're automatically thinking, oh, must be a Muslim guy. And you know, the Muslim community had such a sigh of relief because these kids did not turn out to be Muslims. The media would have immediately jumped on it. Mike, they would have like crucified all Muslims across the world, saying, hey, Muslim terrorist. No. When you're not a Muslim, you're not a terrorist, okay? You have mental issues. And no congressperson that I am aware of, they had to be literally dragged out to say something about the shooting in San Diego. But what's happening is our young people across the country are being, for lack of a better word, radicalized, right? That's the word that the media is using. Just 2 days back, in my neck of the woods, in Plainfield Township, again, an underage juvenile wanted to shoot up one of the local schools over here. The guy was all armed, had guns, had, magazines and everything, and he was about to go hit a local school. Can you imagine that? His relative pinned him down and called the police on him. This would have been a major tragedy, okay, if that had happened. But just think about it. What is happening to our young people? Why are they so bent? I don't know. Do they want attention? That is something that we have to think about, folks. We have to think about this. Okay, so that is one topic that I could speak to for about 2 hours on it. I don't want to do that. Let's look at something else that is happening. Our Director of National Intelligence, Tulsi Gabbard, decided to submit her resignation, citing that she wants to take care of her husband who has been diagnosed with bone cancer. And her husband is about 9, 10 years younger than her. Okay. So sorry to hear about that. I hope her husband recovers. But it didn't make sense to me. Why would she want to resign her position and then lose all the benefits that come with having a government job? Unless these people have, some personal insurance and things that I'm not aware of. Does it make sense, Mike?
No, no, I was trying to figure that out the other day. Why? And then she's not leaving for a while too. So,
No, she's going to leave. I think June 1st or something. That she's going to leave pretty early.
oh,
But did it make sense to me to let go of a job when a family member has been diagnosed with such a serious illness? I think there's more to this story than what we are being told.
right.
Because she was the one who really did not support the war in Iran. And most people are not aware of that, but she really laid into the administration that this is a stupid, stupid war. We should not be going to war with Iran. And I think she's being forced out. Okay, so you come up with, yeah, I need to spend some time with my family. There's the usual excuse that people give when they want to resign from their job. It didn't make sense to me, Sheila. It didn't make sense to me, the excuse that's been given.
Yeah, even Marjorie Taylor Greene's like, okay, I'm going to spend time with my family. I'm going to retire. I'm going to do something else. All of a sudden, after screaming what she has been screaming with the MAGA consciousness for all that time, suddenly there's a change in her thoughts. And when you were talking about, the hate that's going on with the young people, hate is being rationalized right now. That's the new way of thinking. This administration is just backing this type of promoting hate, so to speak. The Supreme Court is even passing laws turning back, 50 or 60 years or so of human rights. So this is kind of turning into willing back in time, is
Yep.
what's happening.
And
Young
so
people are
those
sucking in.
those are some of the things that are top of mind for me this week. And yesterday we hear again that there is possibly going to be an end to the war, and possibly is the word. So Trump got in touch with all the Middle Eastern puppets that we have. I don't call them kings. These guys don't deserve to be called kings. Okay. In fact, there is the concept of kingship is not there in Islam. Islam is supposed to be an elected leader, okay, of the people in different countries, and all these different countries are political constructs anyhow. Okay, except for maybe Jordan and Iran, which has a thousands of years worth of history behind it. All these new countries, Bahrain, this, that, Saudi Arabia, Qatar, UAE, these are all political constructs after the Second World War. So it seems Trump got in touch with all of them, or they got in touch with Trump. I think it's more the other way around. Okay, saying, "Hey, please, Iran is beating the living sea out of us over here. Please put a stop to this." Now, our Secretary of State, Marco Rubio, comes on and gives a statement saying, "Hey, you know what? If we didn't do this, just think about it." These are all talking points that our good friend, the Yahoo, is telling these our government. Okay, Netanyahu has been saying forever, folks, that Iran is on the cusp of having a nuclear weapon. 2 more weeks and Iran will have a nuclear. He's been saying that for the last 20, 30 years.
Right.
And here,
Manipulation.
yeah, and Chris, here we have gone ahead and put in our treasure and our young men's lives at risk for what? What have we gained out of this? Our economy is going down the tubes. You all know what is happening, folks. You all know what is happening. Have you gone anywhere at all? If you bought something, everything is so expensive, all because of this stupid war that we got into. And we're not supposed to talk about this. Don't mention the word APAC or don't mention the word Israel. Well, we're going to mention it over here, okay? And if anyone,
Absolutely.
yep, and if anyone have any issues with that, call in. That is why we want to have the discussion over here. Okay, Mike finally put up the number on the screen over here.
Way to go, Mike.
Yeah. Okay.
I'll get it
So,
looking better next time.
oh, it looks good, Mike. It looks good. So 773-763-9278 is the number to call in, or you can even text in. This is the Lightning Strike, folks. It is 17 minutes past the hour. I'm your host, Mohammed Faheem. Joining us shortly would be Andrew Herrera. And in the first hour, and we are going to discuss what is happening with what is that bill that you're so passionate about, Mike?
HB 2723.
Okay.
Um,
So I'll let Mike take the lead on that when Andrew comes in to discuss this, and please keep it civil. Remember the FCC rules. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
I've studied that, but I don't know.
No language, Mike. No language. No
I
bad
can't
language.
promise anything. Do we
Well,
have a
okay.
bleeper?
Then
Is there a
Okay.
you're not going after Trump for his violation of the FCC rules. So why should
That's
they be
good.
coming after us? What's good
Yep.
for the president is good for us,
Yep.
right?
And speaking of that, in the second hour, Chicago Mayor Brandon Johnson will be joining former Congresswoman Marie Newman in her segment about 9:15. And folks, if you have any questions that you would like to ask either Andrew or the mayor, text us, and we will let the host take the lead on that and ask your question for you, because we have a very short time with these guests, and we have a certain thing that we want them to bring out based on our discussions with them. So if you want to jump into the conversation, please don't feel bad if we don't take your phone call live on the air. Text us 773-763-9278. And that is what we are going to be talking about today. The other thing, remember what happened to, what's his name, congressman that the APAC spent $32 million taking him down? Who was that congressman, guys?
Who was it?
Rasha. I don't know if I'm saying his name right.
See,
Who? Right? Is that something?
he was the
Remember
one.
him.
He was the one who stepped across the aisle to work with Congressman Ro Khanna to
Thomas
bring
Massey.
aha, there you
Oh,
go.
yeah.
Thomas Massey of
That's
Kentucky.
Chris Hilbert.
Okay.
Chris, you
So,
had your coffee this morning.
so
Yeah.
Congressman Thomas Massey, I just wanted to see if these names stick with us. See, here's the thing. People get so caught up in their own greatness most of the time that they think that everybody knows my name. I'll guarantee you that except for Trump, most people don't know any of the other people that they can just pop up the top of their mind. Like Rubio, fine, JD Vance. Do you guys know any of the other senators of the top of your mind from the Republican Party or the Democratic Party, except for Chuck Schumer and a couple of others that we keep hearing, right?
Grassley comes to mind.
Yeah. So please, you Congress people and you senators, don't think that you are so great that everyone in the world is going to remember your legacy. We don't care, okay? What we care about is who do you support? Do you support a foreign government and their agenda, or do you support America first? And that is what Thomas Massey was all about.
Yep.
And APAC comes in and they put it up on their website
Right.
that we took down this congressman, okay, or this senator. I mean, come on, guys. If you want to do that, why don't you register as a foreign lobby, foreign agent?
Right.
They should.
Oh, no, it's not an organization. That's the excuse. It is a bunch of good Americans, like, Miriam Adelson, who wants to put in like $300 million into Trump's campaign. These are just ordinary Americans, okay? And we just want to support our good friend, our ally, Israel, who is dragging us down the tubes even as we speak. So,
Well,
folks, so much to talk about, so much to talk about, okay?
Mohammed, how do they force, APAC to register as a
Well,
foreign
there,
lobby?
there,
I
there,
mean,
there has
who's got the power to do that? Does anybody have the power to do that? It doesn't seem
we
like it.
do, we do, Mike. We, the people,
Yeah,
we, the people, do, and we have to elect the right people with the backbone and the spine to actually do the work of us, the people.
Well, we're working on that here in Illinois with 4 congressmen that are sold out totally to APAC and the Zionists. Do I need to name names?
Well, definitely. I mean, if you have the
Well,
proof,
we
to
got
remember,
Sean Casten, my favorite, Brad
yep,
Snyder, proud Zionist, you
okay.
know. I'd love to have him on the show.
Well, they're not going to come. They're not
We
going to
did
come
it.
on
We
the
did
show.
invite him, Mike Quigley, I don't know what he's doing.
Mike, remember one thing. What I said just now. You have to elect people with the spine, okay, to back up what they're going to say and what they've been saying. And by the way, when we are talking about spine and talking and backing up and everything, let me bring in Andrew Herrera from Herrera Strategies. Good morning, Andrew.
hi,
Good
Andrew.
morning, guys.
Welcome.
Good morning, Andrew.
Morning.
Thanks, guys. Glad to be here.
Okay, we need to get Andrew on video also so people get to see his face. And let's see if I can bring in Andrew
I
Herrera.
see him.
Andrew, say something. There he
Hey,
is.
guys. Happy to be here.
There he
Okay.
is.
All right. Can you hear
Okay.
me?
Yep, we can hear you. We can hear you. We
Okay.
can see you. Okay. So, Andrew, this is what we've been talking about this morning. Okay. The influence of a foreign country. I'm not just going to say a lobby because it's not just a lobby from that foreign country. It is that country's leader coming into our country and addressing our Congress in our hallowed halls of public discourse multiple times, and our Congress people, our elected representatives, folks, getting up and giving this guy standing ovations. What are we doing over here? What are we doing? We have lost our moral compass quite a few years back now, and now we are losing everything that we have built up over the last 250 years as a country. Our reputation, folks, if you go outside and you talk to any country out there who will say are our friends, they're laughing at us.
Oh, yeah.
They're like, yeah, we see behind the curtain now. This wizard has gotten nothing. That is what people are thinking about America. Just think about it. America and Israel combined could not really take down a country like Iran. Iran is dictating policy now. Iran and China. We have lost everything that we built up. We have lost everything that we have built up in the world. But boy,
Well,
I'm sorry.
Here in Illinois, brother, we've got Andrew fighting for us down in Springfield.
Yep. You see,
And
Mike, what happens when I don't write down my monologue?
Yeah,
First off, I don't have to put on my reading glasses to
yeah, I
read
know.
that. Okay.
You look so handsome. So,
Okay.
but so does Andrew. So,
Yep. Hey, Andrew. So let's come back to what is happening in our state, Andrew. Uh, Mike is going to take the lead and start talking to you. Go ahead, Mike.
good morning, Andrew. Good. Thanks for coming back on this program, and you're welcome back anytime.
Yeah, give us a call.
Yeah, and so glad to have you. So my pet peeve, and we just touched on that first, because HB 2723, I was informed by one of my reps that it's kind of like people are dragging their feet on supporting this. Can you expand on that? Is that happening in Springfield?
Well, I think what Muhammad was saying, I think one of the challenges here is, it's one thing to have a foreign leader go into Congress and get a standing ovation. It's another thing when that foreign leader is focusing so much on pushing this down to places where you would not think it's like particularly relevant. And so you have, um, basically the Zionist political conversations at school board levels, at all kinds of local levels of government. And back in 2015, we saw $25 million come in from Israel itself, dedicating state funds to lobby state legislatures, which is really unprecedented,
Right.
around effectively a censorship issue. And so you see that same kind of pressure, this passed in 30 plus states. So of course, when we're trying to move this through, there's going to be a lot of behind the scenes pressure, a lot of major funders making direct calls to legislators. And so you see kind of this backroom lobby that's really kind of trying to put the brakes on this bill moving forward.
Right. Well, that's unfortunate because what can we do about it? Can we call them up or rattle their case somehow?
Yeah, and I think the most frustrating thing I get told is that this is there's two things in polling, right? There's net approval on a particular issue. So like this issue, you see tanking in the polls. Like more Americans are recognizing that this is a genocide. More Americans are upset about us funding Israel in any kind of way. But it's not a top five electoral issue. And so a lot of politicians read that as like, well, this is not the thing people are actually going to vote on. But I would submit to that the great boycott, right, with the farm workers and
Right.
all these other kinds of issues. They never rose to a top five electoral issue. People were not that was not the number one thing they were voting for somebody on, but they were still participating in it. And people are more complicated, more complex than just a top five issues. And so really what needs to be demonstrated at Springfield is that even if this is not a top five issue for the majority of people, it is an issue that people are considering as like a moral litmus test. It is an issue that people are organizing their voting patterns around it and candidate selection preferences and things like that. And there's going to be something that people remember.
Right.
And so the more that there's public engagement around this, and the more that people are making it clear that people who jumped on this bill early are going to be rewarded in some way, and people who drag their feet the longest are going to be remembered, and that may have political consequences down the line.
Well,
Hey, Andrew, I wanted to jump in over here, Mike, with your
course.
permission. When you say it is not one of the top five issues, that is the problem. See, the top five issues are decided by people who are consultants, okay? Much like Mike and me and you. This is something that we are trying to get ahead of now with this new segment that we'll be launching called District Watch. So in District Watch, it will be people who are actually committed to a district, who have run for office or who are politically or civically engaged in the district, talking to people at the grassroots level, and then having those ideas percolate from the bottom up to the top as to what are the issues that people are really, really worried about. So, folks, we did a preview on the District Watch a couple of Sundays back with Nick Unijerski, and Chris Hilbert is taking the lead on that in our team. And if you want to be a part of District Watch, please send an email to chilbert, Hilbert, at tlsradio.com. And we will see if we can bring you in. So I just wanted to throw that out because our segment on the District Watch is going to be at 8:30, and it is 8:30 now. Okay, so continue the conversation, Andrew, and it is so important what the work that you are doing, and the work that a lot of people are doing at that level to bring awareness. Yeah, how do we put pressure
Can I
on
say one
and
thing real quick? I want you said, Mohammed, is
yeah,
that I think you hit the nail on the head when you say, the top five issues is the problem, and I agree. It's really a framing problem
yes,
because the top five issues tend to be defined as like if you ask me in a poll, what's more important to you, immigrants eating or continuing to breathe oxygen, right? You're going to say, well, it's more important to me to continue to breathe oxygen because it's an immediate existential threat. And
mhm,
so like that really is what the top five issues become. It's like energy costs because you have to heat and cool your home, food
yep,
costs, education, like
Well,
all of the existential things for you and your family. And that
mhm,
takes up the top five very quickly. And so then it's kind of a political sleight of hand, I think, when politicians say, well, housing people is not a top five priority. It's like, well, because the top five have already been taken up by like that person's immediate existential needs. But you can both feed someone and you can both desire to be fed and to make sure that other people aren't starving. Like those are not contradictory things. And so we have to expand the framing a little bit in these conversations with these
Yeah.
elected.
I
Well
agree
said.
with you, Andrew. And see, it's not so much the top five issues. Those are basic fundamental rights, man.
right.
Exactly.
Why do we even have to call them an issue?
Right.
Those are fundamental rights that
Well,
every person deserves, right?
Right.
and I think what the Trump administration has been successful in doing is turning our most fundamental rights into policy debates. You know, do we have birthright citizenship? Do we have the
Right.
right to habeas
Yeah.
corpus? Do we have the right to, free speech? These are all now questions, which
Well,
is,
do
I
we
think,
do
one of the
we do
biggest
we
concerns.
do we have the right to question our elected leaders as to where the heck your money has come from, sir, and who the heck is funding you to stay on in power forever? Yeah, though that's a fundamental issue that I am very very passionate about.
And
Exactly.
let me interject for a second. But
Sure,
going
go
back to
ahead.
what you said, Mohammed and Andrew, also, who's framing these issues? It's a framing problem, right? I mean, we hear it all the time. Oh, that's not a litmus test anymore. Medicare for all, nobody cares about that. It's not the top five anymore. I mean, it's ridiculous because you look at Daniel Biss. This guy only won by 30% of the vote. 30%. That means 70% of the people didn't like him, didn't vote for him. And Kat brought out this issue and other issues pertaining to the Palestinian people over and over and over again. And she got a lot of traction on that issue. So the framing of it, you don't hear anybody talking about that really. Maybe on the lightning strike, you'll hear somebody talking about that Biss only got 30%. He doesn't have a mandate, you know. These issues
And
are
Biss
still
Biss
out there.
was on
They're
the
important.
air. Biss was on the air with us a couple of weeks back, right? And he mentioned
Yeah,
he won only like 30% of the votes of the registered voters. Let me put it this way, because people are so sick and tired of these political games. People are not coming out to vote, man.
Mhm.
I want to bring in
It-
Dr. White and Chris Hilbert into the conversation. Guys, feel free. We got a couple of experts with both Mike and Andrew on the air with us today. So uh, feel free, jump in.
I agree that the fundamental rights, hunger and certain basic human rights should not be an issue. That's something that every human on the planet, especially in America, this should not be a debate whether we should have food, whether we should have housing, just basic civil rights as a human. This is something that should not be debated, so to speak. And so for all of this to be going on, we just need politicians to have a spine. They're spineless nowadays. The
right.
money is speaking louder than the voice. The money is speaking louder than the voice of people that want to do the right thing. I think they want to do the right thing, but they're afraid now because of the climate that we're in. They're afraid of being coming after. They're afraid of not being able to have a career, to be a career politician. These things are kind of up for grabs now. Since they're since people want to have a king, so to speak, ruling, the king speaks and things just the domino effect happens. So I think that we just need to get more people that have a conscience, that are not afraid to speak out no matter what the cost, because human lives are at stake for everybody, no matter what background you have. Everybody's at, if you're human, you're at stake of something being taken away as a fundamental right, not only as an American, but just people coming over here. They're not even having a chance to be able to survive. What do you think, Chris?
Oh, yeah. For me, it's all kind of ties back to one of many pet peeves I have about the world. I often say, if I was the supreme empress of the universe, I could get this stuff taken care of pretty damn quick. Okay.
Yeah.
But I'm not the supreme empress of the universe.
You're not? Oh,
No.
darn
What are you
it.
talking
I
about?
know, right?
I
We
voted
all
for
thought
you,
you
Chris.
were, Chris.
I voted for
But,
you, Chris.
That's why we brought you on the show.
That's right.
Clean up the
Okay.
world. Okay, I got
Not
it.
the queen. What the heck?
Okay.
But to get better, we got to vote better. To vote better means the voters have to understand you cannot blindly vote party anymore. You have to look at each individual candidate. We have ballotpedia.org. We have opensecrets.org. And we've got Facebook. We've got websites for these candidates. Seriously, within 5 to 10 minutes for each candidate on your ballot, you can get a pretty good idea of what they voted for, where they really stand. Oh, because you've got congress.gov, and that will tell you how they vote if they're already elected and in Congress.
Oh,
So
speaking
we
of that,
just need
Chris,
to research. People have to research before you vote, and then you get better. And then we don't end up in situations like we are currently in.
no, speaking of that, I had promised to put up that other website that I spoke about last week, and I
Oh, yeah.
completely forgot about that. I'm so sorry. I was too busy. I was too busy going out and practicing my Second Amendment rights at the gun range. Okay.
Well, can I get back to the District Watch thing?
Could I jump in
Go
real
ahead.
quick for one
Yes,
thing, Mike?
yes,
Yeah.
you can. Thank you.
Dr. White, I was talking to my good friend Erica Nanton, who organizes down in Saint Sabina, and one of the things that we landed on was that there are so many, like if you look at the first 100 days of Trump, it's like every day there were 5 new disasters. And it's too much for people to process. Like
Yeah.
you start learning that, I'm sure most people don't know this, but one of the co-founders of Airbnb got a government role during Doge
Yep.
and sold himself a bunch of government properties, and now the government is renting it back from him. And it's just like straight theft, right? And that barely made the news. And so I think, to your point, Chris, it becomes very difficult for people to really understand, because people just don't like, especially when you talk about majorities of the electorate, people just do not have time or the capacity to be able to do that kind of informed research. And so what it really comes down to is that when there are so many issues, when there's such overload, we have to develop these new kind of civic reflexes where we just say, okay, every billionaire is bad. Now, maybe there's an exception to that. I don't know. But at least make the social condition such that that any quote unquote good billionaire has to spend every single day of their existence justifying that they're a good billionaire, and they
Right.
should feel awkward in every room. And in the same way, like, and Zionist is bad, right? Like, not on an individual person level, but just like Zionism is a bad thing, and make them always justify and show that they have some kind of commitment to peace somehow. I don't know how that's possible, but developing these kinds of reflexes, where it makes the world a more simple place.
Yeah.
And so and then people can engage with it. And I think people are already seeing that in a way. And I think it's very difficult to show up in polling. Whereas, like, I know it's shorthand for a lot of people. Like, if you are a politician and you are with the Zionists, then people just don't trust you.
Yeah.
And so, like, it's not going to show up as a top 5, but it's going to say, like,
Right.
it's a value judgment that shows up in that. Because people are wondering, and you look at the state law and you're like, this doesn't make any sense from a self-interested perspective. Like
Right.
we are actually disadvantaging ourselves and our pension holders, and then by extension the taxpayers, we're gonna have to bail these pensions out because they're like some of the worst funded pensions in the country. Um, and you look at that and you're like, well, why? Like, why would anyone do this? And why is anyone dragging their heels? And it becomes kind of mysterious. And so then at that point, like, how do you maintain the public trust? And you look at things that happen, like we had the fair tax we were trying to pass a few years back, right? What was the Republican attack against that? Oh, what was the Republican attack against that? The Republican attack was, do you really trust Springfield to spend more of your money? Do you really trust Springfield to not raise your taxes? Because the language of the amendment made it look like, oh, they could just raise your taxes to whatever they want. It's like, well, guys, they could already raise your taxes to whatever they want. They were just trying to do a differentiated tax rate, right? Like that was the thing. They were trying to be able to raise billionaire taxes and not, low income taxes. Um, but they failed in doing that because the counterpoint was so easy to just say, do you really trust the Democrats in power to not raise your taxes? And so that just shows that's an indictment of trust, of the broad public trust in Democratic leadership, in the party, and state leadership. And I believe that the Democratic majority in Springfield, it has the ability to get a lot of good things done, but they really undermine their position and their ability to hold the public faith when they fight so hard in such a kind of shadowy way. Like we're not taking any votes, we don't know exactly who's on what, and so it just makes the average person just mistrust the entire process, and
And
that's
I
one
think
of the
that
big problems.
Andrew, I think you hit the nail on the head. That's why people are so disinterested, disinvested is the better word, into coming out to vote. Okay, Mike, you wanted to get back to the District Watch segment. It's 42 minutes past the hour, folks. If you want to join the conversation, Andrew, in the second hour, we got Mayor Johnson coming up. You're welcome to stay on. But we're going to let Congresswoman Murray Newman take the lead on discussing whatever that she wants to discuss with Brandon Johnson. If you have any questions, please put that in the chat room, okay? That way, Marie can monitor the conversation as to the points that she wants to bring out first. And if we have the time, then she can get into our questions with the mayor. Okay. Sorry, Mike. Go ahead. Can you
No,
can
that's
you put up
okay.
that number again, Mike?
Oh, here it is.
Okay, 773-763-9278 for our listeners out there.
Is
And
that
that
showing up
segment
backwards?
No.
that segment is sponsored by our good friend Ray Hanania. And if you want to know more about Ray, go to hanania.com, or rayhanania.com is his website, and learn more about Ray. And just one quick thing, Mike, before I let you take the mic back. Mike, take the mic back. Okay. Please mark July 29th. Pencil that on your calendar. We are doing the first ever fundraising dinner for the lightning strike. So, Andrew, July 29th in the evening from 6 to 9:30. This is going to be at the Bolingbrook Civic Center in Bolingbrook. And my big thanks to Mayor Mary Basta for stepping up and arranging the facility for us. So thank you so much, Mayor, for doing that. We're going to have possibly a few other people coming in to speak, including Maria Papas, the Cook County Treasurer. She's going to be committing to come and speak. And of course, our team is going to be there. Sorry, Mike, go ahead.
That's okay. No, that's all right. I look forward to that fundraiser, by the way.
Yeah.
And I'm going to be there with bells on. So
Yeah, tickets are only going to be like $65 per person, okay? And that includes food also.
yes.
And you get to see and meet Mike Patino in person and shake his hand.
Wow.
And the queen. Don't forget the queen.
Oh, the queen of
yeah.
Sheba.
Yeah.
Or whatever it was.
Okay.
Yeah, getting back
Marie
to
is going to be
District
there.
Watch,
Maria is going to be there. Our entire team is going to be there, folks. So do come out and support us. Tickets are going to go on sale on our website, tlsradio.com. in the next week or so, we'll get everything organized. This just happened like 2 days back.
See, I never should have mentioned that again. Now, can I have the mic back in? So, so Andrew and I have talked. We talked about off camera, of course, and he's gonna. I really look forward to having him on the show as a regular, as much as he wants to be on, because he's down in Springfield presenting bills, and I asked him if there's two or three bills that he thought personally were important that he was getting involved in, because I know in the District Watch coming up on Chris Hilbert's segment that we're going to have people like Lynn LaPlante. As a matter of fact, Lynn LaPlante's going to be our first one. She ran for state rep, and she got sabotaged by the DuPage Democratic Party. And she will be talking about that. But she'll also be talking about bills that Andrew is working on that these people support within their district that are very important to the citizens and the constituents of that district. So, is there a couple bills that you'd like to touch on, Andrew, for us?
Yeah, so I've talked to you guys before about HB 2723, which we discussed a little bit just now, but that's the repeal to the anti-boycott law. And so we got a subject matter hearing a couple weeks back when we spoke last, and what we're trying to do now is make sure that we're building as much momentum as we can into the summer, so we can really get a lot of everyone's attention on this over the summer and come back in veto session and pass it. And then what we'll also be working on over the summer is what we call the Workplace Extreme Temperature Safety Act. It's HB 3762. And what that would do, as crazy as it sounds, there's currently no law, federal, state, or local, that says anything about when it gets too hot to work, or when workers need water breaks or rest breaks or shade breaks. So it could be 120 degrees outside in cornfields with a humidity index of like 130, or it could be 100 degrees with a heat index of like 120 degrees in the cornfields in the summertime, and there's no mandate that the workers get shade or rest or water. The same in factories and the same in the cold. So it could be 0 degrees outside, and there's no mandate that they even get gloves. Um, and so we're working to pass a law that would do just that. And then we're going into the budget. Well, I mean, we're very much in the budget period. There's only a week left in session left, so we're pushing really hard for $50 million of access to justice funding, which is Access to Justice is a great program that has really built a lot of Black-Brown solidarity across the different nonprofits. And so it goes to basically, we have all these rights, quote unquote, but we don't have, many times our communities don't have access to legal counsel to be able to actually assert them. And so we Access to Justice funds that through almost 100 different nonprofits across the state. So it's an incredibly important program, and particularly now that the federal government has become so abusive of people's rights, it's more important than ever that people have access to counsel that's what we call access to justice, so they basically are able to access that justice. So those are three of the big things we're working on, and just things that I'm not working on that I think are interesting is the Power Acts, which regulate AI data center construction.
Right.
So that one's, it's being carried by Leader Gable. We don't always see eye to eye, but I think she's a strong. She's been a strong progressive in general for a very long time, and I think this is a good bill. She's really good in environmental issues, um, and it's getting a lot of pushback from industry, of course. And I think AI data center construction is a terrible business. I think we're one of the top three states in terms of data centers already. And if folks remember Foxconn up in Wisconsin, um, it turned into this big empty warehouse that was basically like a gift to Paul Ryan in his district, but then ended up becoming a terrible thing for the district because it was just a big empty facility that um, was an issue for a very long time. I think we're building hundreds, if not thousands, of Foxcons across the country right now, because we don't even have the hardware to fill all these AI data centers. And it looks like, the AI companies are starting to charge a lot for their credits. And so the usage of AI is going down substantially. And so it just seems like the usage curve, the demand curve is going to flatten. And all of a sudden, we're going to be left with, all of these publicly subsidized massive warehouse projects.
Right.
Um, and who's going to take care of it, it's going to bankrupt all these municipalities. You know, the ones going up in Joliet is insane. It's like, what is it, 80,000 acres or something crazy like
Yes,
that?
yeah. Mhm.
Uh, so yeah, it's all crazy. And then so putting
Data
that
centers
together,
to me, are a very big issue in Illinois, especially in Joliet, as we talked about earlier in the show.
yeah.
And we've got a group up in Grays Lake that are taking the same battle on up there. And I'm going to see if I can get those people on the show as well. And maybe your friend, we can get her to, if she's in charge of or taking the lead on data centers. Um, Maybe you can give me some
Yeah.
contact information
Guess
for her later.
it's good too to talk to like my buddy Danny Robles, who's over at IEC,
Okay,
the Illinois Environmental Council. They do a lot of work on this. So like Clean Power Lake County is up there doing, they've been working on that coal plant out there forever. But
great.
it's also like this is an emerging environmental issue because people don't understand. They think it's a warehouse, but really like if you think of the computer, like people don't have desktop computers anymore. But if you remember back to that, you remember it's like a box with a big fan on it,
Yeah.
right? And that's effectively what a data center is. It's just the size of a warehouse. So
Right.
you've got all of these machines constantly running, and just imagine how loud that would be. And then
Yeah.
the fans, and so like how much heat you're generating, and then the power suck on that. And like I live down here in Pilsen, they wanted to build a power center just like or a data center not too far from me. And I was like, man, in the summertime when we're all running our AC, like transformers will consistently blow. So you want
Yeah.
to add like how many megawatts to that system? Like there's no way the whole grid will come down.
Yeah.
And these guys, instead of charging them more to improve our infrastructure, we're actually giving them tax breaks. So it makes no sense. And I think really we're being bamboozled by these AI companies.
Absolutely.
Um, because you see like the whole thing, if you look at a lot of the research, they say a lot of the researchers will say AI is just a marketing term. There's no intelligence in AI. It is just a predictive algorithm. And so, you know, people look at it like it's such a crazy thing to me. And I'll just to be on the topic for 1 second here, is that it's a lose-lose for us. Like, why would we give public subsidies to AI companies if AI succeeds, their promises will all be out of a job, right? And so why would we want them to win?
Exactly.
And then if AI
Right.
fails, the economy will fail because everything's over leveraged and these companies are so overvalued that they have to succeed in order to justify those share prices. But those share prices are so high because the promise is they'll get rid of workers. So in what world should we give them any public money? We should
Exactly.
be regulating the hell out of them.
Well, we have
I
we
just
have
read
some politicians coming up in these areas that I would like them to get a hold of you. Can you give us some information on how these people can contact you? One of the people, Morgan Coghill, he ran for Congress up in the Lake County area, and
10th
he
district,
he
yeah.
was taking the lead on this group of people that are fighting the data center. So, if you can give us some contact information for you right now, I would appreciate it.
Yeah, you can always hit me at the general email is info at Herrera Strategy, so HERRERA STRATEGY.com.
Okay, sounds good, folks. So our District Watch segment is going to be sponsored by my good friend Mike Patino of Aslan Consulting, right, Mike?
Yes, sir.
Okay, and so we are looking for other sponsors also. And if you want to really help each other out, Andrew, one of the things that I like to think about is when I identify a problem in my consulting business, the Center for Strategic Solutions. That is my consulting company. Okay, we focus more on workforce and economic development and getting people back into employment. And like you're saying, AI comes in, people are losing jobs. So I like to come up with possible solutions to an issue. So we have identified the issue that these data centers, and I'm so glad you brought out Foxconn, in Wisconsin. I think it was Bruce Rauner was the governor then, right?
So yeah,
I
yeah,
I, I think so. I think so. But yeah, that was such a big deal. Yeah, Foxconn is going to be building this massive, place over there. They'll have so many jobs. Nothing happened.
yeah. I
Okay,
think that was Scott Walker in
and
Wisconsin.
especially in my town of Plainfield, where I am from, I'm also a commissioner for the Plainfield Planning Department and the Zoning Board of Appeals. And our neighboring cities, Crest Hill, Joliet, they are all full of warehouses now. Okay, we are going to have some warehouses in Plainfield. That is a necessity, but beyond that, no, we are not. We're trying to keep out these massive warehouses. Yeah, how do you maintain those things? And what is the solution? Possible solution? Data needs are going to grow. Okay, there's no doubt about it. That is the future. How do we handle this?
I mean, data needs are going to grow, but like, think of where so much of the processing power is going. It's going to like, um, that op OpenAI had Sora, is what I call it. It's like the OpenAI Instagram, but it was just a bunch of image and video gen for free, basically. And so like it's always a flag to me when you have a new industry and they're manufacturing demand. So like they were creating an automation loop where like AIs would be requesting AI video generation, which is super resource intensive, and then it would just kind of go in a loop and it would feed itself. And so they're trying to show that there's a ton of compute going into this. And so we don't actually know what the data demand is. We know these guys are like they're burning through like billions of dollars a month, because their total revenues are like, in the low tens of billions of dollars, and their expenses are like in the hundreds of billions of dollars. And so, yes, data needs will grow, but the demand is currently completely artificial and or largely artificial. And then the other thing that people need to understand is that all of the chips and the hardware in these data centers is considered a consumable because they only last about 5 years. So every single data center has to be completely retooled in 5 years. Like imagine that at the scale of like a Ford. If a Ford factory had to be rebuilt every 5 years, how many of those factories would get idled, as soon as the market slows down? And so there's this huge bet on like this continued exponential growth of the industry. But like the data needs to become more efficient. Some of these newer models like Quen and whatnot they can deliver the same product with a fraction of the compute. And so we're just not modeling for the future. We're not modeling 30 years out. We're modeling, 18, 64 months out maybe. And so and we're betting all of our futures, like our water,
So
our energy.
maybe I think that's where we need to focus on. And again, it goes back, folks, to having people who understand these things in power. We don't want these dinosaur, legislators who don't know how even Microsoft Word or Microsoft Office works
Yeah.
to
No,
make
we're running out of
decisions.
time. I, I,
People like
I would just
this.
say, it's half about that, but it's like you're never going to have a person who's an expert in everything. And so what you really need them to be able to do, like you need to surround them with
Oh, come on,
institutions.
come on, Andrew. I beg to differ with you on that, sir. We got our president who's an expert on every darn thing. Okay, we,
Yeah,
we got this guy in the White House, Andrew. Come on, you don't trust him?
exactly. King of the world. But
Okay.
I think these guys are responsible
So,
to
coming
influence
up
others.
on 9 o'clock, folks, we're going to be taking a station break to go to the top of the hour on NBC News. Speaking of that, CBS Worldwide or CBS News that used to have news all over the country on different stations, they recently shut down their shop. Okay, after 100 some odd years or whatever, CBS News, that entire division has been shut down.
Wow.
Yes,
Okay.
and
120
WBBM, for
years.
example, used to get their top of the hour news breaks and all of that from CBS News. Now they have shifted as of Thursday this week. They have shifted to ABC News for that. That
Wow.
entire division was shut down. Can you believe it? Hundreds of people have lost their jobs, and I think it was more of a political decision because they were kind of questioning some of the leaders that we have now. But that is the world that we are living in, folks. We are
Exactly.
continuing the conversation on Facebook, so do feel free to chime in if you want to while the station is taking their break. And media, again, has been totally stripped of its powers. We have these media moguls coming in and buying things outright. Remember, last week we had Dr. Paul Lisnick from WGN who was let go. WGN was bought over by a company, Nexstar or something, out of Texas. And they let go 9 of their top on-air people with no notice. Okay.
Despicable.
Yeah.
Cold, man.
So some things are happening, folks, in our country, and we really have to watch out for these things. And please feel free to discuss things. At least we have this medium, and I'm very thankful to Heartland Signal and WCPT for allowing us to talk about these things openly. I think, like you're saying, Mike, we are probably one of the few radio programs in the country who are discussing these things so openly.
Right.
And one of the things that why we are able to do this is because we are not taking any corporate money, any corporate advertising. You didn't see me take an ad break all hour. And if you really want to support this kind of independent journalism, please go to our website, tlsradio.com, for the Lightning Strike Radio. Become a paid subscriber. You can be a paid subscriber for as little as $10 a month.
Right.
Okay. And
Right.
that
I'm a
will-
paid subscriber.
Okay, Mike is a
$10
paid
a month.
subscriber.
$10 a
Okay.
month, man.
So that leaves Sheila and Chris now. Okay, Marie is
Pressure's
already
on.
a paid subscriber. But jokes aside, folks, if you want to have any kind of public announcements that you want to make, we are starting a segment on that also. Dr. Sheila White is going to be taking care of that along with her other duties as our segment producer for our Person of the Week. Sheila, who's going to be our Person of the Week this week?
Our person of the week this week is Clay Webb, and he has been in the Marine Corps Reserve, activated into more than one war. So since Memorial Day is coming up, we want to be able to acknowledge our vets and have a
Yes.
conversation because things are still happening worldwide. America is involved in a war, which everyone knows. And so we want to get people that had boots on the ground, their perspective in honor of this Memorial Day that's coming up. So we're looking forward to talking to Clay in about half an hour or so, 45 minutes or so.
And I see that someone has joined us on iPad 187. I don't have a name for that. So whoever is joining us on iPad, please identify yourself later on. But yeah, folks, 9:45, Clay Webb will be coming on, and we do have Memorial Day tomorrow.
Yes.
And we want to talk about the importance, the significance of Memorial Day. And Andrew, you're welcome to stay on for the rest of the hour if you like to. If you got nothing better to do on a Sunday morning, this is what we do, and we've been doing this for 3 years now.
Yeah.
We have not missed a single show in 3 years, except for when the station had some technical issues, right? And then they had to replay a show. But this is the kind of commitment, folks, that we want. Remember this. There's no red, blue, green, and yellow in our country, right? We are all Americans first. Let us start thinking along those lines. Whoever is good for the country, let us support them. It doesn't matter. Okay, if you're not born a Republican, you're not born a Democrat, you're not born a Green Party person. Andrew, you did mention Saint Sabina. Would it be possible to get Father Flegger to come on the show one of these days?
Yeah, I can certainly ask.
Yeah, please do. I would love to feature him. I like his approach, and I think he's one of the few clergymen out there that I respect, along with our own, Pastor Fran Lehman, who is a good friend of mine here in the Plainfield area. Wonderful person. And then we've got Father John Reagan from St. Mary's Church over here. Wonderful person. These guys are really stepping beyond their cloth, okay, to put it mildly. to talk about stuff. So I don't know if somebody, if you could please identify yourself, who has joined on the iPad. I don't have a name, and I think it's probably my suspicion. It is the mayor's office. Okay, and he will be joining us at about 9:14, 9:15. I'm waiting for Congresswoman Marie Newman also to join us. Mike, go ahead, continue.
Well, let's get back. Where were we? I can't remember anymore.
I have a comment.
You were in
Chris,
Denver.
I was going to
Sheila is
ask
in
Chris.
Joliet. Andrew is in Chicago somewhere. Chris is in useless Texas.
I'm in Denver. But
I have
Chris,
a
I was going to
comment
go
for
back to
Andrew.
Chris Hilbert. Hi.
Hi, Andrew. I have just a comment to you about one of the issues that you talked about earlier about getting the workers gloves in the wintertime, shade and water in the summer. I don't know how helpful it would be, but sometimes, putting a little shame into people works when you want to get your way. Just mention to them that in Texas, our governor and the Republicans shot down a similar bill, and it is okay. Basically, they've decided it's okay to work to death construction workers in 105 and 110 degree heat. No breaks required, no access to water to cool down, and there were construction workers that died because they refused to pass a minimum requirement of a 10-minute break every 2 hours to cool down in 100+ degree heat. And that's just the heat, because it gets up to 110, 115 here in Texas in the summertime. Sometimes days in a row, and it gets freaking hot here. So you can just mention it. It's not a real good look long term for your state, knowing that the state condones the killing of their workers. And like I said, sometimes phrasing it in a truthful but a slightly exaggerated tone, but not much, because people do die when you don't have protections for the workers. So just an FYI, you can look it up. The information about what Texas went through, I'm sure, is out there somewhere. But it was a pretty big deal for about a year. And
yeah. I think both Texas and Florida actually went past that, and they actually repealed existing standards.
Yep. And I really want to do a shout out to our unions over here, folks. If it was not for the unions, we would not have had any rights as workers in this country.
True.
Everything that you see, from a 5-day work week to overtime and all of those things that we take for granted now. Yeah, the unions had to fight for that. Okay.
Yes, they have.
And speaking of that, we got Mayor Brandon Johnson joining us, and I think I'm going to wait till Marie Newman joins to bring him in, and that way Marie can carry on the conversation with him. But yeah, so all the rights that we take for granted now, folks, in the workplace, yeah, guess who fought for that?
Died for it. I mean, there were plenty of union people, the strikers. There was the whole Pinkerton thing. That was a shock when I learned about that about 30 years ago. It's like, how come this isn't taught in school? This is important stuff. This should be taught, and it's not.
Well, I'm bringing in the mayor, and I think it's probably, I suspect Marie is in her iPad today. Okay, so let's see if she can join us. And again, folks, if you have any questions for Mayor Johnson, please text it to us at 773-763-9278. That is the number to call in or text us. And we try to keep the program very tight. Time flies on radio, folks. We have already gone through our first hour, and I don't know how time flies so fast when you are on the radio. But this is the Lightning Strike. We come every Sunday morning from 8 to 10. And by the way, before we started the lightning strike on WCPT, from 9 to 10 is when we first started that in the morning. Mayor Johnson had that hour. Okay, so glad to see him back. Good morning, Mayor. If you can.
Yes. Hey, good morning, everyone. It's so good to be with you all. And it's good to know that that great Sunday morning tradition of great progressive talk hosts is still alive.
Well, you started the whole thing, sir, for us on Sundays on WCPT, and I think Congresswoman Marie Newman is joining us also this morning. So I'll let Marie take the lead from here on and start talking with you. Good morning, Marie.
Good morning, and good morning, Mayor. I think we have you on.
You do have me on. I'm grateful to be with you this morning, and thank you for giving me an opportunity to come back to my old stomping ground.
Indeed. And may I say, the family picture you have on your Zoom is adorable. So just look at that out of the way. Thank you for being here. Everybody knows our mayor of the city of Chicago, who started out as a commissioner, but also his original roots are in teaching, which I have to tell you, when I hear a politician starts out as a teacher, it usually makes me stand up and listen because it means that you have patience and you're good on your feet.
Marie, if you don't mind me jumping in over here, if Mayor, if you could please put up your video, we'd love to see your face, unless you haven't shaved in the morning on Sunday.
Yeah, no, I'm going to do that. I'm actually about to get into a vehicle, so I'll just bear with me.
Yep.
Headed to my first stop.
Well, multitasking. So
Go ahead.
thank you for being here, Mayor. One of the things, and you'll find, and welcome everybody to my segment, Ignore at Your Risk. One of the things that we talk about every Sunday during my segment are things that either get ignored, don't get enough attention, are part of a bigger story, or things that sometimes good news in the news doesn't get covered. And one of the things I like to observe in our surroundings here in Illinois, but also broadly in the Midwest, are there's a lot of really good things going on in all of our cities. And I want to be clear that crime is being reduced in most of our major cities, but also in our B cities and our C cities, right? So I think overall, this is a good sign that our municipalities are doing a good job. But specifically, we've seen some good numbers in the Chicago area that I don't think get lifted up enough. And this is what the team has shared with me recently is that, it looks like in the most recent CPD, which is the Chicago Police Department stats, is that we've had a homicide reduction of 29%. Shootings have dropped 34%. Robberies have fallen about 36%, and vehicular hijackings down 50%. So I am curious, and I think others are too, Mr. Mayor, what has been the reason for that? What specifically are some of the programs you're doing?
Yeah, thank you for that question. And thank you for highlighting the work that's being done around the country, where progressive leaders are driving change and transforming our cities by taking a more full force of government approach. But look, let me just start off by saying that one homicide, one shooting, one act of violence is one too many, right? Even with those numbers that, we're able to highlight for those families that have fallen victim to violence, those numbers don't necessarily bring them comfort. What we have done, though, is what we've said from the very beginning, that policing alone is not going to create safe and affordable communities. And so one of the things that we did out the gate was, one, I made a concerted effort to invest more in youth employment. Our Shy Youth Works program, no administration has hired more young people for summer jobs than my administration. I just signed an executive order to create full-time positions year-round for peacekeepers with working with Good Kids Mad City. Last summer, we hired over 31,119 young people. Again, the neighborhoods that experienced the highest level of employment saw the greatest decline in violence. Austin, in particular, where I live here on the west side of Chicago. What we also did was we invested in mental and behavioral health care. Not only have I reopened 3 mental health clinics, I've expanded the CARE program, the Crisis Assistance Response Engagement program. It's no longer a pilot. It's a citywide effort, a program that's fully funded, that in the event of a mental health crisis, a paid behavioral mental health crisis worker can assist in that crisis versus a police officer. And then that frees up police officers to confront the more violent acts that we are looking to drive down. Third, we've invested heavily in CVI, the community violence intervention workers. These are individuals who have been formerly justice involved, and now they are coming back to support the communities that they once wreaked havoc in. Where CVI is present, we have seen declines as high as 45 to 50%. And then finally, I made a promise to hire 200 more detectives. Well, we've done that. We've hired well over more than 200 detectives, and now we have a clearance rate that is higher than it's been in over a decade, 72 to 75% clearance rate, so that if a violent act does occur, whether it's homicide or shooting, we hold those individuals accountable because that serves as a deterrent. So it's policing and mental and behavioral health care services. It's policing and youth employment. It's policing and community violence intervention work. And all of that working together, where we've revamped our detectives bureau, where there's stronger communication within our police department. Again, last year we had the fewest amount of homicides in 60 years.
Yeah, and that's all good news. So, you raised a great point. So those families that have lost their babies, right? It's not great comfort. And there is now a perception, and we can scream about this all day long, right? I find this is so fascinating to me, Mayor, and I want your specific take on it. I'll be talking to someone who is predisposed that Chicago is riddled with crime, or is predisposed that all of the businesses left, or is predisposed that there is violence in our neighborhoods every minute of every day. I just had this in my home recently. I had this discussion. I live in the suburbs. Many friends from the city come and visit. I'm in a near suburb. And they'll say, well, it's still just riddled with crime and it's so bad and blah, 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 blah. And, when you share those statistics with them, it is really hard to get, and these are really smart people, right?
Mm-hmm.
So what do you recommend? It's like,
Mm-hmm.
how do we talk about this in a way where, it's a combination of fact and story, right? Is that,
Mm-hmm.
so I would love some advice on this. How do how do you talk about this?
Yeah, well, look, I mean, as I said before, violence has not been eradicated from the earth, right? We're
Yeah.
seeing extreme violence as war is being promulgated across the globe, right? And so we've seen many different acts of violence. And so I'll say it the way Reverend Jackson would say it to me. And when I was organizing, he would say, you have to say it to them as if it's the first time they've ever heard it. And, if you think about Reverend Jackson, keep hope alive. I am somebody, right? I mean, until his last breath, he was telling people as if it was the first time they've heard it. And here's the thing. Reducing violence and crime in Chicago is not just simply about statistics and data. It's about what we are filling these communities with. Absent the affordable housing effort, you can look outside your home and it still reflects and mimics what violence looks like, right? That's why I've invested more in our education system. I think it's about talking about what else we're doing and not just simply about what we are trying to remove. Look, last year, something else, Maaria, you could say is that last summer we had more people visit our city than any other time in the history of Chicago. We had 3.5 million visitors over the summer. If Chicago was just this place riddled with violence, how are we leading with population growth? There's no major city right now that is experiencing population growth. They're either declining or remaining flat. Our airport is the busiest in the entire world, right? And so I think it's also talking about the fact that, again, we released the largest TIF surplus back into our schools, parks, and libraries than any other administration. So when you're talking about safety and you're talking about community safety in particular, it's not just about the absence of violence. It's about what we are replenishing our community with.
Yeah, it is this combination of story, fact, and just having the experience and giving it a try, right? I keep telling them, I said, how about if you go and walk around a little bit? How about that crazy idea, Speaking of which, had a good friend come into town. We were in Pilsen, and then we for dinner, and then We were also the next day on Michigan Avenue because she absolutely had to go on Michigan Avenue. That was her thing, right? So I said, okay. And so she made an interesting comment, unprovoked. And so I want you to talk about this a little bit. She said, and it's not a great statement, but I think it shares how people are starting to feel. It's like, oh, Michigan Avenue isn't as desolate as I thought it was going to be. I was like, okay, that's not great, but it's better than.
What do you know?
It was comparative in value, right? So and Michigan Avenue means nothing. It's the smallest part of our business district, really. But like, like it is a kind of a centerpiece, right?
Mhm.
So use that as an example, and maybe one other neighborhood. Choose, I don't know, Ravenswood or something. Choose two business districts and tell me how things are changing and why factually they're changing.
Yeah, well, first of all, that's a great anecdote there. I mean, honestly, to just kind of hear that perspective where folks are like, it's not as bad as they thought. Because listen, we have our challenges, but we're not falling apart here. In fact, Chicago is the top destination for corporate relocation anywhere. We've been voted the best big city in America by Condé Nast 8, 9 years in a row. Again, 13 years in a row for corporate relocation. One of the things that we are doing downtown that's unique to the other 76 neighborhoods is that we are converting old office buildings into housing and affordable housing, right? Because our economy has shifted and changed. The pandemic has proven that. And so now some of these boutique shops are now exclusively online. But there are more folks that are coming back downtown. If you look at Foundry Park, for instance, this is the Lincoln Yards that sat desolate through multiple administrations. 9,000 units are going to be built there, right? And that's all privately funded. That's not even government assistance. Same thing on the south in the 78, that's that desolate. We're building a brand new football stadium there. In America, we call it soccer, right? So we can build stadiums and do it in a responsible way.
Right.
And so I think the way we talk about what's unique to Michigan Avenue or other parts of the city is that business and residential coexist, right? And so when you talk about Argyle, or if you're up in, Rogers Park, where you see strong business communities, but you also have a dense population there, right? And I know that's going to trigger some of my Northsiders because I know parking is a big deal up there, but it's also a sign that you can have economic development and housing coexist. That's what's unique in this moment. I think that's what your friend is recognizing, that we are repopulating these districts with not just business and commercial development. And the last thing that I'll say, we're doing this through our $1.25 billion economic bond. It's the largest economic bond in the history of Chicago to build housing and to invest in our small businesses. We've invested in my first 3 years, Marie, almost $700 million into small businesses, right? Again, going back to downtown tourism last year, almost $1 billion of new revenue into our economy because folks are coming back through our communities. And they're not just going downtown, to your point, because that is not even, you think about Little Village, you think about Bronzeville, right over here on the west side where there's more economic development happening along Chicago Avenue. So that's the unique thing in this moment, is that we are blending the small business economic development with building housing, including affordable homes, of which 20%, 30% of the homes that we are building downtown will be affordable. So a security guard and someone who cleans the windows can actually live in the neighborhood that they're working in.
I hear every day when I'm talking, particularly to young people between, and you know what I'm going to say, is between, say 20 and 34, they certainly can't afford their home. The average age of the first-time homeowner has gone up to 40 in our nation. It's a little higher, actually, in the Chicago metropolitan area, which includes the suburbs. And so young people tell me every day, that's great that you're building some homes, Mr. Mayor, but like, what are you going to do to the current affordability crisis with existing homes? Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, look, that's a big deal. The home that my wife and I are raising our family in on the west side of Chicago, this was during the economic downturn. And we were able to purchase our home, through a short sale, but someone else lost their property. But we still needed 2 government assistance programs to help us purchase this home. At that time, it was $150,000, right? And now the average price of a home roughly between 275 and 350 here in Chicago. Now in New York, it's 1.1 million is the average price of a home. In Los Angeles, it's 900,000, and that's for a fixer-upper that's about 900 square feet. And so one of the things that we're doing in Chicago is through our green social housing, which was a campaign promise, where we're going to build homes using a revolving loan of the economic bond that will pay for the housing that we will build. And of course, it will be sustainable, because it's also about controlling the cost of not just building, but for utility, right? Many families are struggling not only to pay their mortgage, but to make sure that their utility bills are under control. But we're also really investing in what it's called the missing middle. It's the first of its kind in Chicago, where we're building owner-occupied homes. So not just single family homes, but 3 flats, multi-units, where an owner can live in one level and then rent out the other 2. So we can build at scale while also creating generational wealth. And we're using, of course, developers of color, women, to help infuse this. The last thing is through many organizations, the city of Chicago is selling vacant lots to developers for essentially $1. We're working to help with some of the environmental mitigation there, so that we can build more of units at scale, because that's really the answer. The more units we build, and we're on pace to build over 10,000 by the end of next year. We just invested another $300 million in 15 affordable housing projects across the city. And because it's been neglected for so long, the demand is significant. The need, of course, is there. And now it's a matter of moving government expeditiously to meet that demand. But we're building, and we're building at scale.
Good. The affordability crisis hits everybody. Every day they walk out and they feel it in their homes. They feel it everywhere. As we move towards the your big race, right? I will preface this by saying that being a mayor in any size town, whether it's teeny tiny like my 15,000 person town, or a city of nearly 3 million like yourself, being the mayor is the convergence of everything. Is that healthcare, housing, safety, and business all converge together, and everybody's thinking about it every day. As you move in as the incumbent, what will be your primary message going into this 2027 race?
Yeah, look, I think you, Maria, have already alluded to it. My goal is to build the safest, most affordable big city in America. Because for me, to live in a community that you feel safe in, but you can't afford to live in it, that doesn't solve, right? But you can afford to live in a community and not feel safe. That's also is equally problematic. And so that's why, going into this, next season and going into the summer months, we're going to continue to double down on our efforts to build more affordable units, working with community partners to help us engineer at a faster pace housing. We just passed a couple of months ago the ability to expand ADUs. So this is a big deal for homeowners who may have a relative, a child, an aging parent that can live with them while creating wealth, essentially, and protecting affordability. And then, of course, still doing all that we can to keep people safe. There's there's a lot to be desired, of course, over 30 plus years of malfeasance and disinvestment, right? We've seen school closings, we've seen mental health clinics shut down, public housing has been, shuttered. The ultra rich, of course, and big corporations continue to receive tax breaks and loopholes. And so when we talk about building the safest, most affordable big city in America, that happens when we invest in people. And the best way to invest in people is to challenge the ultra rich and these big corporations to pay their fair share in taxes.
Awesome. I'm glad to hear about the ADUs. So listeners, if you don't know what an ADU is, do a little Googling. It's assisted dwelling units. It's a way multi-generational families can support each other in their wealth journey. And actually, there's a good bit of it already going on the Southwest side. I have many friends in Archer Heights and places like that are already doing this to great success. It can be done. So if the city can support it, that's great. One final challenge, and this is a big one, and we want to hear back. I'm going to have you do some homework, Mayor.
Okay. All right.
I would like your administration to think through a report that shares on all of these things, that comes out in a meaningful way and in a relevant way to young people, folks that are, midlife and older in the city, but then also in other places too. So it's like an ambassador report that shares in very specific stories why these things you're doing are successful and what your administration is doing is successful. And obviously, print is great, but digital is way better. And so I'm going to challenge your organization to do something like that and get it out in the next few months, because all of these things you shared with me sound great, and we've got some good statistics going. Nobody's making the connection. I'm just being honest with you.
Yeah.
So I'm going to challenge your administration to some homework, and I'd love to see it. I won't grade it, but I would like to see it.
Well, I think it's a healthy challenge. That's why these conversations are important in the fast age of the digital age. It's important that people know what and why we are doing it. I mean, government continues to be redefined, and I believe ensuring that people have a seat and a view of the table. I agree with you. I think that it makes for a better engagement.
All right. Well, Mr. Mayor, I'm going to let you get back to your business. We went a minute over your time. So have a great day. And will you come back soon?
I most certainly will. Thank you.
All right. Take care.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Well, that's a good picture that he has put up over here.
I know, very
Marie,
cute.
and it was so good to see and hear Mayor Johnson again. And he did acknowledge that we are continuing the work that he started on WCPT, because he used to do the Sunday morning shows from 9 to 10. And when he became the mayor, obviously, he couldn't continue to do that. And that's where we stepped in. Okay. Yeah. We got Maaria Mozaffar joining us. Good morning, Maaria.
Good morning. Good morning. How are you?
Morning.
It's a rainy day here.
It was so beautiful yesterday, though, and we had a small party in our backyard, and we put up a big tent and stuff, and my daughter was like, man, I hope it doesn't rain. No, it didn't rain. Thank God for that. Maaria, I did start off the morning today with my monologue, and it was not a written monologue. It went from the heart this time. And I spoke about the dehumanization that is happening in our country, especially with what happened in San Diego. And just last week, we had a person, a juvenile in Plainfield, who was planning to shoot up a school over here. And he was pinned down by one of his relatives. He pinned him down and called the sheriff's office on him. Something is happening in our country. And we do have a caller that wants to chime in. And if we can just take that call, Maaria, before we go to your segment.
Of course.
Yeah, go ahead. You're on the air with the Lightning Strike team on WCPT. What's on your mind? Well, I'm waiting for the station to connect. Dylan, if you have a caller, please bring them on. Yeah, good morning.
Hello.
Hey.
Yes, can you hear me?
We can hear you.
Yes, can you? Okay. Yes, while the mayor was on, I was just wanted to ask if they could start a clean campaign. The city is so dirty in certain areas, and if they can start a clean campaign. When I was growing up in the 70s, there used to be a garbage cans down the business districts that people could drop their garbage in, and the garbage trucks would come by and pick up the garbage or what have you. I know it's a community effort and people need to get involved, but I wish they would bring something like that back again to help clean up our communities. That's all I wanted to say. Thank you so much for taking my call. Great show.
I'm pretty sure the mayor is listening when he's off the air, and I see that someone from his office is also tuned in over here today. Yeah, great suggestion. And like the mayor said, he's going to come back on the air with us, in the future. Maaria, let's see. What is the echo chamber that you're going to break today?
Well, first of all, I want to thank the caller, because people don't realize these specific elements of keeping the city clean just gives dignity to humans that walk the streets. So for him to take time to call that, I appreciate that. And Marie, your request of having this report, it's so important because what's happening with digital media and why this show is so important is that whoever has the mic and whoever's the loudest voice can change the narrative of what you're creating. And so what happens is that even your victories can be skewed or taken away from you. And so it's so necessary, like you said, we don't see connecting the dots. So I think, I mean, and I think that report post and while you're doing the work is important, but then I want to say autopsy when you lose elections is also important because people can change narratives and people can delete things. So it's a good idea to have a running report as you're going through because you're working with the community in this process and you need them for buy-in. So I appreciate that. Going back to dehumanization, unfortunately, very, very unfortunate that this happened in Plainfield and, of course, in San Diego. And then there was another case in Minnesota, Mohammed, I don't know if you know. So I was in DC earlier and on Monday and Tuesday, and I wanted to share this with your listeners because what's very important when you go to DC, and anybody can go to DC and have a meeting with an elected representative. You can literally go through the security and walk up to the office and meet with the legislative director or the chief of staff or somebody that's on the desk and share your voice there. So I encourage everyone, if you're going to DC, please do that. And that is across the board, every state government and every city council. Now, the things that we spoke about in DC was specifically the war in Iran, the strategic benefits of it, and the strategic issues with it. And what I found consistently is that there was a partisan divide and people were not able to speak about it in nuances beyond what the talking points are. So we spoke to Republican chiefs of staff and we spoke to Democrat, and that's what we found. What we did recognize is that there's gaps of information. And what I mean by that, there's gaps of information because every elected official is welcomed in with talking points on the lobby groups that have approached them. So a lot of times they'll talk and they're not even able to make logical sense by what they're saying, but they're repeating their talking points. I'm sure Congresswoman Marie understands this as well. And this was the experience. In fact, I spoke to a legislative director, chief of staff for a Republican elected official in the House, and they kept repeating. I said, well, can we talk about the dehumanization in Iran and the dehumanization in Gaza? And you must have spoken to physicians that are telling you what's happening and our taxpayers are paying for it. And her response was, well, some of those doctors are just extreme in their position. And so we just have to, they're extremists. And so we can't take what they're saying at face value. So here, this is where we are. As a society, we are now looking at physicians who have risked their lives to go help people who don't have anesthesia, to do procedures on kids without resources, and they have become extremists. So this is the power of language. This is the power of narratives, going back to Marie's request. You need to have a running report and a running story and a running state of facts. Because what happens is that the partisan politics divides and creates stories that are just not true. And so I kept challenging this person. They kept coming back to this talking point. And I said, okay, well, as far as your constituency, you understand that people are not monoliths. So have you spoken to veterans? And she responded with, I actually haven't spoken to veterans. Now, this is a very interesting and important thing to talk about, is when you're talking about war and funding a war, you have to engage veterans. Because when you're talking about making them irrelevant or sidelining them, who have been on the ground and know what fog of war means and how mistakes can be avoided, and then you're calling physicians who are on the ground extremists, the two sources of facts when it comes to war are being deliberately ignored for a political agenda and a political gain. And that's what I want to break the echo chamber on, is that when we're talking about the war currently, please, and especially with Memorial Day, please speak to the veterans. Please Google what the veterans have to say, talk to individuals that are dissenting who are veterans, and speak to physicians as well. In fact, I had a very powerful conversation with retired Colonel Anthony Aguilar, and he was a Green Beret, and he specifically spoke about the school in Iran, which was something that we were also talking about, the girls' school in Iran, that we technically paid for. And he brought a very good point up. He said, this excuse of fog of war and that we are making mistakes doesn't make sense. because now we don't have man-to-man combat. We have transitioned to drones. So there is somebody in a basement in Nevada using a drone to attack a school where there are civilians and there's little girls and you can view it. These are the nuances we have to be able to speak about, because we cannot figure out what the best approach is if we're constantly not talking about facts and deep down in talking points. The other thing I wanted to talk about is absolutely, Mohammed, San Diego. So the question is, with this show here and what role we can play and all the listeners can play, dehumanization specifically happens because we are allowed to use narratives fed by individuals who have the mic. What has happened now is that we have not centered faith communities. We have not centered individuals that can actually weigh in on these policies. And so it's very easy to take these faith communities and dehumanize them to the point where it becomes an issue of violence. Now, let's be honest, the two individuals in San Diego were 17 and 19. They're kids. These are not individuals who have engaged with large years of interaction with the Muslim community in San Diego even. They're kids, right? And so this type of resources and information are coming from digital media where places have been funded to be able to dehumanize one another. And I would say that not centering faith community voices has been a huge issue, because even if you look at the Christian policy advocates, the Catholic policy advocates, the Jewish policy advocates, Hindu, Sikh, all of them across the board will tell you nobody feels comfortable with how their kids are feeling. Nobody feels comfortable. So this dehumanization is against everybody across the board. I think when you pass the buck and say, you know, the journalists are going to fix this or the media is going to sort itself out, it's a big mistake. I thank Mohammed for creating an environment where people can be proactive and share processes to how to make change and have factual conversations. Otherwise, you guys, we're going to be taking talking points just because we're ordinary citizens. If I can walk into DC and speak to a chief of staff that is repeating talking points and calling doctors extremists, we are missing a big chunk of facts here. The last thing I wanted to say, because the mayor was here, is that when I would write policies for the state of Illinois in areas of criminal justice or education reform and healthcare, what would strike me very interesting is that I would go to suburban areas such as Hinsdale, Dixon, Illinois, other areas as well. And I would talk about funding to fix the gap of property taxes in the public education system. And one response I would get again and again is say, why does Chicago need more money? They don't know how to spend their money. Why does Chicago need more money, right? And these are coming from districts that were very well funded, where the schools were fantastic. So it's interesting to note that the two arguments against investing into the city is either it's wasted or they don't need it. And I think that's why the report is super important, Marie, because we need to know how these dollars are being spent. When it comes to food deserts, access to ambulances, right? One specific thing that we spoke about and food deserts was a big passion of mine. And I think what we do see with public safety, healthcare, ambulance access, and public safety, more importantly, is that all of it is successful because of the community engagement, right? We had organizations like Ceasefire, we had the faith-based communities stepping in, solving these problems, working with the city council. So all of this plays a role in civic engagement. None of these problems in a big city can be solved by throwing money at it, but it can be solved with actual facts to know how the money is being spent and to inviting engagement for communities. I mean, even for food deserts and healthcare, a lot of these faith-based communities came in and really argued about big box grocers, right? And so we understood that very clearly, and that invited the city council and the city to play a role in it. So I just want to break the echo chamber on this, that the mayor was, here talking about his vision and what he's doing. We've had other elected officials as well. But at the end of the day, the innovative ideas and passion to move things has to come from us. Like there are meetings where people will say, what are your ideas? So you want to be in those seats. And so I encourage everybody to do that. And we just can't afford to pass the buck on anything, on dehumanization or having access to food, education, and healthcare.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Maaria. And that is something that we are going to be addressing through our District Watch segment starting in June. And this is people who are invested in the district. This segment is going to be sponsored by our good friend Mike Patino and Aslan Consulting. Yeah, get involved, okay, and hold our elected representatives accountable also for their actions. If they have promised something, are you doing your job or not? That is what the District Watch segment is going to be good about. We are also planning a monthly get-together or maybe a bi-monthly get-together in person that we can talk about things without having a defined agenda in place. Okay, what is happening on at the grassroots level? And speaking of that, it's 9:45. It's our segment for our Person of the Week, and with Memorial Day in mind, Dr. Sheila White has invited Clay Webb to join us. And Dr. White, if you could please introduce your guest, and Clay, if you there you are, I can see him. Thank you so much for joining, and Dr. White, take it away.
Well, this long weekend to celebrate Memorial Day is off to a start, and the holiday recognizes the fallen U.S. military service members. And Memorial Day honors military personnel who has made it the ultimate sacrifice for the U.S. through their service. And so we're happy to have this week as our Person of the Week, Mr. Clay Webb, who has over 30 years in the Marine Corps Reserve, and he was activated twice for Iraq's freedom and once for Desert Storm, Desert Shield, and Desert Storm. Clay, welcome. I would like to ask you a question. How is this war that we're currently in different, in your opinion, than when you were activated? And is the climate kind of different now? Is our moral compass by starting wars different today, in your opinion? Because you're a veteran and you know this stuff. You had boots on the ground. So give us your take on the difference when then and now. Go ahead, Clay.
Well, good morning, everyone, and thank you for allowing me to be on. I take it you can hear me okay. That's a loaded question. I would say this regards here. So Afghanistan and Iraqi freedom, there were declared wars. And obviously, as service members and fighting in the military, we follow orders, even if we don't always agree with them. And so in that sense, and then Iraqi freedom, went on for many, many, many years. So that capacity is definitely different from Iran because it hasn't technically been a declared war by Congress. But yet the soldiers on the ground are still following orders. So and they're trained to do.
You're very currently involved in working with vets. Tell us a little bit about the work that you all do to support veterans.
So I volunteer with Disabled American Vets, DAV. .org is the website Maaria was referring to, just like VFW and American Legion. It has our mission statement on there. And the way I like to express it is basically veterans helping veterans. And so the DAV national office does it on a national level, going to DC and trying to get members of Congress to listen. We have a statewide Disabled American Veterans in all of the states. And then locally, I work for Will County, DAV Chapter 103, and we service veterans in Will County. The veterans we serve are disabled from various degrees. We try to help them and their families and their spouses if they're as well.
Yeah, I'd like to open the floor to some of our other hosts on the show because there's so many opinions that are out there, not only with this current war, but just in support of veterans, things that are going on. If anyone has any questions they would like to ask our guest, he's been involved in not only helping veterans, but just boots on the ground in a number of wars. And he's been doing this for over 3 decades. And so he has an invested interest in still serving. And I really just acknowledge you. So if anyone has any questions for our veteran today, welcome in on the conversation. Also, I would like to ask you as well, Clay, there's not only this particular war that's going on, but I'd like to get your opinion on the feelings that people need to have in honoring our vets, because some people don't care. They're not voting, so many things going on. So, in your opinion, how can we honor our vets more in a personal way? There's a lot of programs going on, but we want to just be able to salute you all because you all are the reason that we have the freedoms that we have today.
I think there's many ways. Personally, when just thanking the veteran for their service, that started becoming popular a decade or so ago, I felt a little odd, because I was doing it because I enjoyed doing it. But I found I appreciate when people say that, and I've been actually using that statement to other veterans as well. Veterans actually do the hard, they've put their lives on the at stake when they serve the country. And I think there's a lot of families have someone in their family structure that actually has served, especially when we go back to World War II and Vietnam vets as well as there. So talk to your family member that's in the service and listen to them. I think if you really have a heart-to-heart talk with them, you'll find a lot in common and a lot to be thankful for. I'll say it that way.
Yeah.
Well, I want to bring in a caller who actually wants to talk about the data centers that we were talking about, Clay, and then we'll get back to you on that. Dylan, if you could please bring in the caller. Thank you.
Good morning. This is Al from Franklin Park.
Hey,
and I just had a question on the data centers that I started wondering, and that was how these guys all interconnect together, and how much redundancy there is in there, because there's so many. Like, we have a data center here in Franklin Park right now, and Digital Reality has a whole bunch of them around Chicago. And then one other thing on data centers, I'll put a plug for Northwest Suburb Organizing for Action is having a Zoom call on Tuesday night. It's going to talk with somebody from the Sierra Club and the Citizens Utility Board on data centers in Illinois and the regulations for them, and also how they're affecting the grid. So.
Excellent. Thank you, Al. One of the things that you could do is please send an email to TLS for the lightning strike, TLS820am at gmail.com. We are starting a new segment where we will be carrying these community announcements, and Dr. Sheila White is going to be producing that segment. So please send an email out, and we'll be happy to share that information on our airwaves and on our social media also. We got about 6 minutes to finish off the show, folks. And I want to go back to Clay, and we got Maaria and Chris and Mike and Congresswoman Murray Newman with us. If you could please keep your questions to 30 seconds, and Clay, keep your answers to 30 seconds so we can get in as much as possible in this segment.
I wanted to, first of all, thank you, Clay, for your service. I wanted to know, since you touched on it, do you feel in this time that your voice and your communication and any opinion that you have on current wars is being heard from your elected representatives?
I hope so, and that's why I like giving back and being a member of the Disabled American Vets, because I feel as the million members, that power of a million is hopefully getting it heard. Basically, Dr. White asked earlier about drones, and I think I didn't really answer that question. The data center, we're actually got one in Coal City that we're trying to avoid coming in as well. But with AI, I think it's really important that our Congress members hear us because of the moral compass that we might be going down. War is still very personal, even though it might be a drone. It's very personal to the family and the people at the other end who are hurt. So we can't just rely on technology, and then the technology only does what people program it to do. So
great, Clay. We have had quite a few veterans on the show in the past, and one of the things that I focused on in those segments was the human cost of war. What happens to the veterans' families, and how they are impacted when the veterans come back. I'm losing my voice. Mike, take it and run.
No, that's what we
okay.
want to hear. How it affected you, your friends, people that when you go to, when you're in close circles with each other. How did it affect you?
Well, Mike, I'll start at home if you don't mind, because actually,
Of course.
the wife and I were just talking about this the other day. My 30 years of service, I probably spent 7 years apart from my spouse. And I'm very lucky to have a woman that stood by me and go there. But it also affected me. My daughter, well, I was in boot camp when my daughter was born. I was away for Desert Shield, Desert Storm. My wife was very stressed and had a hard delivery when my son was born. So I have to be thankful to my family. I did put a lot of stress on them.
Wow.
Being away was a lot of stress.
Yeah.
Things.
And
Yeah.
Let's bring in Chris with a question. Chris, you got anything for Clay?
Well, just thank you so much for coming in and talking with us today and giving us your perspective. And I'm an Army brat, and
Okay.
and so my perspective of military is a little bit different because I haven't actually served as an adult, but just as the reciprocal from my dad. And it is tough on everybody. And I think that there's not enough people talking about how it impacts the person in uniform and downstream, their immediate family, their spouses, their children, but also their parents and their siblings and how they are impacted also. And I appreciate you coming in and telling us and informing us and sharing with us your experiences. And it is very emotional for so many people. Memorial Day, Veterans Day, and some of the other holidays that we celebrate and honor those who have served. And so, yes, thank you so much. Appreciate it very much.
Thank you, Chris. And we'll give Marie the last question. We got about 3 minutes to finish off the show, and then 30 seconds for the question, 30 seconds for the answer, Clay.
You know what? I'm not going to ask you a question, actually, Clay. I just want to tell you, my family's filled with veterans. It's a very heartful weekend, right? Luckily, nobody had to give the ultimate sacrifice. Everybody lived a long life, but they saw lots of people. And my dad used to tell me this story about losing a friend of his, and it has always stayed with me. So particularly on this weekend, and the reverence of it, I just want to say a heartfelt thanks to you for all you do, and appreciate your family too. Please let your family know, because to your point a minute ago, no one understands what families go through when their loved one is, whether they're in combat or not, it doesn't matter. You're just equally as worried all the time because they're in a strange land, right? So just thank you to you and your family. And I hope you have a restful weekend. And thank you for your service right now, because what you're doing right now is of service. And it reminds me I need to do more. So thank you.
Well, I wanted to finish off the show today, folks, with, I've got 6 members in my family who are in the services. And particularly one young boy who came back, he is so unstable at this point. He's already gone through 2 marriages. He's not been able to hold up a job. His PTSD is so severe. And he's my nephew, okay? So I know it from a personal point of view as to what happens when these wars happen overseas. And for our leadership, just to take it so easy, Clay, I just noticed what you said, is no matter if it is done by drones or whatever, things are very personal to the person who is even the drone operator. We got 1 minute to finish out the show, folks. So this is the Lightning Strike. We come every Sunday morning from 8 to 10 on WCPT, Chicago's progressive talk radio station. Please go to our website, tlsradio.com. to support the show. We are planning a fundraising dinner on July 29th. Maaria, there's news for you. At the Bolingbrook Community Center. The mayor, Mary Abasta, has kindly, agreed to work with us on that. We just finished, I signed the contract last week on the venue. So it's going to be July 29th in the evening. We will have tickets available on our website, and we are just planning this whole thing out at this point. Ray Hanania has been very helpful. Hassan Nijam has been very helpful in making this thing happen. 10 o'clock, folks, we'll be signing off for the day today, and do come back and visit with us next week. Same place, same time, Sunday, May 31st. And I will be broadcasting out of New York that day. See you all. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Clay.
Thank you all.
The preceding program, The Lightning Strike, was sponsored by Mohammed Faheem, and to the extent applicable, their guests. The views and opinions expressed therein do not necessarily reflect those of Heartland Signal, LLC, or its management.